This is a BMC Roadmachine, a 3,300 pound carbon fibre Shimano Ultegra equipped endurance bike. Now this is a Swiss company's endurance focused bike, and that basically means you have a more relaxed fit and geometry than a race bike that is loosely based on. In the past we've seen sporty bikes, as endurance bikes used to be called, which are basically race bikes with really tall head tubes to put the handlebar in a higher position to put less strain on your back when you're doing Grand Fondos and Sportives and so on. These days, endurance bikes are much more racy and sporty in their focus. The likes of the Trek Domani, the Candao Synapse and the Specialized Roubaix are really good examples of endurance bikes that are a bit more aggressive and a bit sportier in their outlook. And the BMC Roadmachine is no different. So the Swiss company has a team machine for racing. It used to have the Grand Fondo for endurance, but they dropped the Grand Fondo and replaced it with the Roadmachine, which takes a lot of cues from the team machine race bike, but just dials back the fit and geometry, and makes a few changes, a long wheelbase, a slack head angle, to make the ride a bit calmer, a bit more stable on those long distance rides when you're tired and you just want an easier bike to ride, less twitchy and nervous as a race bike can sometimes be. And what a cool looking bike it is too, if you like massive oversized tubes and angular lines. If you remember the original Team Machine race bike launched probably about 10 years ago, they had these mad lugs that made it really stand out in the pro peloton. And these days a lot of race bikes do look the same. While it's not as distinctive as that original Team Machine, it's still a really interesting bike with some really cool details, and you can see the intent of purpose with this bike. So you've got a massive down tube leading to a press fit bottom bracket and similarly oversized chainstays, and that's all about ensuring maximum power transfer. So when you're stamping on the pedals, whether on a sprint finish or on a steep climb, the frame isn't going to flex or twist around underneath you at all. All your power energy is going to forward motion. And then counteracting that huge stiffness is an attempt to provide some comfort. So you have really skinny seat stays, you have a slender top tube and a D-shaped profile seat post, which are all designed to provide some compliance, some deflection when you ride along rough roads or pavé or dealing with potholes and other obstacles that we have to face here in the UK. As you'd expect, it's got disc brakes on because most new bikes, especially endurance bikes designed for all-day riding in unpredictable terrain and weather, they're all about disc brakes. So we have 12mm through axles front and rear with flat mount calipers, and the brake hoses are internally routed in the frame and the fork to provide nice clean lines. The gear cables as well are internally routed, but unfortunately the bike, they're a bit sprouty where they come out from the handlebar into the frame. The integration was a key component of the Roadmachine when it launched. They developed their own handlebar and stem to cleanly route the cables inside the handlebar, stem and directly into the frame. So no exposed cables and hoses, really clean, really minimising the drag and really good looking approach. However, to meet the price point, this bike does not have that handlebar. It has the same stem, but because it doesn't have the handlebar, the cables are externally routed. They go from the handlebar to the down tube junction box, and as you can see they do sprout out quite a bit. It doesn't affect the performance and the function of the gears, just doesn't look very nice really, and on a bike costing £3,300 I'd expect a bit more attention to detail really. As I mentioned, this bike costs £3,300 and you get a full Shimano Ultegra group set, so mechanical gear changes, 11-speed cassette on the back and hydraulic disc brakes with a 140 rotor at the back and a 160 at the front. It's a very common setup, and there's really not much I can say about Ultegra that I've not said or written previously on road.cc. It's a solid workhorse of Shimano group set, probably the best blend of performance and weight. If you want to save money, 105 is a really good option. If you're obsessed with weight and you're weight weenie, then Dura-Ace is worth going for. But if you want the best all-round group set, then Ultegra probably is. It's a really easy to use group set, nice lightweight shifting action, really good brakes and really reliable and durable. And it looks pretty good as well, it matches the style of the frame nicely. The bike is riding on Mavic Axiom Elite UST disc wheels, and UST is Mavic's tubeless technology, so it's a tubeless ready aluminium rim. Unfortunately, however, BMC hasn't fitted Mavic's own UST tyres, instead opting for a Viatoria entry-level Rubinio tyre, which is a clincher tyre, and it's a good tyre, good all-round durable tyre, but it's not tubeless compatible. So if you want to go tubeless and take advantage of the tubeless rims, you'd have to buy a new set of tyres, I'm afraid. It's a real shame that BMC didn't fit Mavic's own tyres or another tubeless tyre to give the person buying this bike a tubeless option if they wanted it. Tubeless is a rapidly evolving technology, and for a bike like this, an endurance bike designed for dealing with all sorts of roads over long distance, tubeless technology is a really good thing to have. Just minimises the risk of punctures when you're riding in the back of beyond, riding on rough roads and pavé and so on. So the shame they didn't go for that. Finishing kit is mostly BMC branded equipment, including their own aluminium shallow drop handlebar, their own stem and their own carbon fibre seat post. And you have this Sella Royale saddle, which is a bit of a physique copy there. They're all fine finishing equipment, nothing you want to change out of the box. One really important detail worth mentioning on this bike, because quite a few endurance bikes don't have them, is the fact that you can fit mudguards. So you've got your rubber bungs here, remove those and you can fit mudguards. Gives you an option for winter training when it's wet and raining, or for commuting duties as well, so you have a really versatile bike. No mudguards in the summer for sportives, and mudguards for the winter when you're training and getting the miles in. So a really neat detail, and I'm glad BMC have taken that decision. As for most endurance bikes, you have space for very wide tyres. These are a 28mm wide tyre, but you can go wider up to a 30, maybe a 32 at a stretch. So if you want to get maximum comfort, you can with this bike. So those are the specs and key details of the BMC. Let's take it for a ride and see how it performs. When it comes to riding, the BMC Roadmachine really impressed. I was blown away with the speed. It's a really fast, rapid bike, and it reminds me more of race bikes I've tested in the past than endurance bikes that I should be comparing it to. That massive down tube, bottom bracket and chainstay does a really good job of effectively transferring your power input into forward motion. Whether you're sprinting up a climb or sprinting for a finish line, it just transfers your power really efficiently into forward motion. Just really good fun when you're going flat out. If you like riding fast, you will like the BMC Roadmachine. I also like the fact that it's a really sporty riding bike. So yes, the reach and the stack is more laid back than a race bike, which is loosely based on, but it's not quite as laid back as some endurance bikes in the category. So I can still get a nice aggressive position, slam the stem and get the front end nice and low. And I still felt nice and stretched out as well. So I get quite a racy position, which I'm used to from race bikes. And it really indulged my habit for going as fast as I possibly can all the time, even when I'm knackered and my legs are falling off. I like riding fast, and the BMC Roadmachine indulged my desire to go as fast as possible at all times. The handling is really good too. The steering is nicely weighted, you can put the bike where you want it, and it corners really nicely. There's quite a lot of feedback from the contact points as well, so you can feel what the tyres are doing underneath you. The downside, however, it's not the comfiest, smoothest riding bike in this category. There are definitely bikes that provide a smoother ride where you're dealing with the rough roads here in the Cotswolds that I have to contend with, or cobbles and pavé. It transmits a bit too much feedback through the handlebars and the saddle for my liking, and even with 28mm wide tyres inflated to 65, 70 psi for my body weight, I just felt too much feedback coming through the contact points, and I would like a smoother ride. That really is a challenge for an endurance bike, and for a manufacturer designing an endurance bike. It needs to provide that speed and agile handling you get from a race bike, but with the comfort you want to deal with rough roads and pavé. And I feel that the BMC just leans more towards a race bike in terms of how it deals with rough roads. It's not the comfiest bike in this category, and there are smoother riding options if you're looking for the comfiest bike. But if you don't mind trading a bit of comfort and you quite like a firm ride, and you don't mind a bit of feedback from the road, then the BMC Roadmachine shouldn't be discounted. But don't buy it thinking it's a comfy bike, because it's not the comfiest bike. As a package, it all comes together really well. The Shimano Ultegra Groupset is a star of the show here. Really easy, light shifting, fantastic brakes, loads of power, and the levers offer great ergonomics. I got on well with the handlebar and the stem in terms of reach and the width of the handlebar and so on. Didn't really like the saddle, and I did change that straight away, and the saddle weighs quite a bit, so you can save a bit of weight there if you want as well. I found setting up the saddle and the seat height quite easy. Got an internal seat clamp, which is nice and easy to adjust. The wheels are fine. They're not the flashiest wheels. You might expect a higher end wheel, a lighter weight wheel set on this price of bike, but they do a good job and they're reliable and durable. The tyres are, well, they're okay to be honest. I can't really say anything more than that. They do a fine job in the dry and the wet with good traction. They're fairly durable and didn't have any punctures, so they do everything you want from a tyre really. But they're not the nicest feeling tyre. Compared to a high-end race tyre, they don't have that supple feeling, and they're quite stiff sidewall, probably contributes a little bit to the hard ride of the bike. So upgrading to a better quality tyre would probably provide a slightly smoother ride on the bike as a whole. And as I mentioned, these rims are tubeless ready, so I would personally swap the tyres for a tubeless tyre. Doesn't mean spending more money, which is a shame really, but a high quality tubeless tyre in a 28 or maybe a 30mm width would unleash a bit more comfort in this bike, which it does need, without sacrificing the speed and performance of the bike. If you want outstanding speed, then the BMC Roadmachine delivers. It's really fast, rapid, and it also offers engaging, responsive handling. A really fun bike, but it's not the smoothest, it's not the comfiest ride. If you want maximum comfort, then there are better options. The likes of a Specialized Roubaix, the Candale Synapse, or the Trek de Marne all offer a smoother, more capable ride on rough roads, cobbles and pavés and so on. So that's been my review of the BMC Roadmachine. There'll be a full in-depth review on the road.cc website, so make sure you check that out as well. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't already, and I'll see you all again next time.